Our text today is the 23rd chapter of the book of Joshua. Behold, this day I am going the way of all the earth. And ye know in all your hearts and in all your souls that not one thing hath failed of all the good things which the Lord your God spake concerning you. All are come to pass unto you. Not one thing hath failed thereof. The life and labor of the man Joshua were all but over. His twofold task had been accomplished: to conquer the land of Canaan and divide that land among his people. Now all of that had been done. Parting from loved ones is never easy. And the time has now come for Joshua to part from everyone and everything he had ever known. Like a father who thinks of his children and provides for their future before he dies. Like Moses, who gathered his people about him before he left the camp of Israel for the last time. As Jesus did. He gathered his disciples about him at the Last Supper, in closest fellowship and with words of encouragement. So Joshua now gathers the elders of his people about him one more time. I am old and stricken in years, he begins. Joshua had come a long way in his life, and the years had taken their toll on him. From his childhood as a slave in the land of Goshen, through the 40-year march with Moses in the wilderness, and lastly, the weary years of war as the campaign for Canaan was fought for and won. Joshua had seen a great deal in his life. I am old and stricken in years, he said. Had the old warrior's body functions begin to break down? His health deteriorate? Or did Joshua have a premonition that his end was close at hand, as people sometimes do? What last word would he leave with them? What could the old soldier say to them to see them through the trials that lie ahead? Joshua says, ye have seen all that the Lord your God has done. Look back in your own lives, your past experiences, where you are and how far you've come. By the help of God, by the grace and guidance of God. You have seen all that the Lord your God has done unto the nations for your sake. For the Lord your God is he that has fought for you. Joshua makes no mention of his own exploits and accomplishments. No reference to his own loyalty and leadership. The Lord your God, he it is that fought for you. Yet we set ourselves free from the tyranny of the Egyptian Pharaoh, who parted the Red Sea for us when we were hemmed in on that sandy shore, who gave us victory when our straggling column was attacked in the wilderness and Moses held up his arms in prayer. When the Canaanite kings of Bashan and Heshbon attacked us unprovoked on the other side of Jordan, and the confederacy of the Canaanite kings came against us on this side of Jordan, when we stood before the fortress walls of Jericho, and in that battle on the longest day when the sun stood still, the Lord your God, he it is that fought for us. Joshua pleads with them to look back in your personal lives. When we were stalled in the wilderness, seemingly going nowhere. When we stood stymied at the river Jordan at flood stage. Who gave us strength in the years of weariness? hope in despair, forgiveness for our failures, and victory out of the jaws of defeat. Trace your pilgrimage from your mother's arms to the present day, through all of the seasons of your life, from the springtime of youth, through the wind and storm of summer, and the killing frost of autumn, and the long and cold of the dark winter. The Lord your God, He it is who has fought for you. Behold, he continues, I have divided by lot the land unto you, and all these remaining nations. The Lord your God shall drive them out from before you, and ye shall possess their land as he has promised you. The work is unfinished. Much remains to be done. Pockets of resistance, enemy strongholds in the mountains and in the valleys. You people have land to clear, cities to build, fields to plow. But the God who was with you in the past will be with you in the future. Your God of yesterday will be your God of tomorrow, equal to all of tomorrow's troubles and challenges. These people needed to hear that, for their lives had changed beyond recall. They were losing the only leaders that they had ever known. Moses on the other side of Jordan, Joshua on this side. They were passing from a homeless refugee into a land they could call their own. From pilgrim herdsmen into permanent citizens. From dwellers in tents to houses and villages and cities. And the change tended to frighten them. Would they be equal to the things that were happening around them they'd never witnessed before? You and I need to hear the words as well. The folk song tells us that the times they are changing. And that song tells us too. Modern technology, medical science, industrial engineering are changing your American way of life every week. You can debate whether every change is an improvement. The change is a part of life. Like Israel, we cannot go back, even if we wanted to the simple way of life in the wilderness, led by the pillar of cloud and fed from manna in heaven. Don't be afraid, Joshua is telling you. The Lord who was with you yesterday will be with you tomorrow. His abiding presence, His power, His providence go with you in all of the changing things of life. Nothing can ever happen to you that will catch your God off guard. But there is a condition. Nothing automatic about it. Be ye therefore very courageous. Courage is required. And by courage, Joshua means more than physical stamina and mental tough-mindedness. Be very courageous to keep and to do all of the words of the law of the book of Moses. To turn neither to the right hand nor to the left. That you mingle not among these remaining nations and invoke their gods and bow down before them and serve them. But cleave unto the Lord your God. He will give you the strength of pen to take heed that you love the Lord your God. The kind of courage that is required of us is the courage to keep the law of the Lord, to put the principles of our faith into practice, the written, revealed, authoritative word of the Lord. It takes courage, see, because sometimes you might have to stand alone. As Joshua did at Kadesh, when the 10 spies who were his comrades incited the people to rebellion and to run back into the desert and die. It takes courage, because the world around you may sneer and smile, as they did at Joshua when he gave them the battle plan for Jericho. Crazy military strategy. It takes courage to hold to the straight and narrow, without swerving to one extreme or the other, to the left hand or to the right. It takes courage to follow all of the law of the Lord, without exception. To find not only what you're looking for in the Bible, what pleases you and is agreeable. It takes courage to keep from drifting with the tide of our time, reducing the standards of discipleship to the level of the world around us, watering down our religion so that society at large will not be offended by it. But if you will remain loyal, your strength shall be the strength of 10. And one man shall put to flight 1,000. That's the Lord's promise to you. In our own wisdom and might and self-sufficiency, nothing. Forgetful of our Creator, bowing down to the gods of this world, the deal is off. Only as you align yourself in loyalty to your Lord can you pass from death to life. Finally, Joshua sums it up in the grand summation of his life. Behold, he tells them, I go the way of all the earth. Time marches on. It didn't wait for Joshua, and it won't wait for you and me. But notice how he speaks of his impending death. There's no resentment, as though some strange thing were now happening to him that he'd never heard of. I go the way of all the earth. I'm going to lay me down in good company, right along with the rest of the whole human race. Why should that be sad? The weary soldier is not sad to see reinforcements replace him in the front lines. The wanderer far off is not sad. And finally he turns his face toward home. I go the way of all the earth. But you know in all of your hearts and in all of your souls that not one thing has failed of all the good things which the Lord your God has given you. Joshua points his people to the God who promises. He points them to the promises of God that never fail, no, not once. Not one thing has failed of all the good things which the Lord your God has promised you. Joshua is speaking to us across the centuries, Trust God and He will never let you down. Put yourself in league with the Lord of your life and you need not even fear death. With God there are no impossibles. What He promises He can and He will perform. God has not promised us everything. He didn't promise Israel that they could own Egypt and Edom and Moab. No father would promise his son and daughter everything the child desires. When, where they want to have it. It is as the poet once said, God has not promised sun without rain, joy without sorrow, peace without pain. God has promised strength for the day, rest for the laborer, light on the way, grace for our trials, help from above, unfailing sympathy, and undying love. Human resources may fail. God will never fail you. Your hopes and dreams and aspirations can and will be realized if you remain loyal to the Lord of your life. This is the theme of our lives in all their relationships. There is nothing that so steadies us and stabilizes us as the certainty of our Father's presence and power and promise. You know in all your hearts and in all your souls that not one good thing has failed of all the things which the Lord your God has promised you. Amen.